Hello everyone, and welcome to Island Technology's presentation on DrayTek Central VPN Management. My name is Rudy Tan, and I'm one of the network engineers at Island Technology. Together with Roy Panetta, who is the technical manager at Island Technology, we will give you an overview of DrayTek's latest solution to easily manage your VPN network. Central VPN Management is a new feature that has been introduced in a number of new models of DrayTek routers to simplify the process of setting up a VPN connection between the central router and multiple remote sites. During this presentation, we hope to give you an overview of what Central VPN Management is and how it can benefit you and your customers. Some housekeeping issues. The presentation will be around 20 minutes, and there will be a 5-minute Q&A. Listen-only mode for the presentation, and you can raise your hand in the Q&A time. You can type your questions or comments in the left button. Sometimes there may be a breakage in sound due to network congestion. Be patient and stand on. Sometimes you may have to re-register to get back in. We will save a recorded video on our blog site sometimes in the future. But if you want a particular slide, you can click Save button on the page. I will now pass to Roy to tell you more about CVM.
Hello everybody, my name is Roy Panetta, and I'll just go through the rest of the presentation. Today we'll cover 4 topics in today's presentation, and first we'll start with a description of what is Central VPN Management, and then we'll describe how Central VPN Management works, and then we'll look at how to configure Central VPN Management. And here I'll show you a short video produced by DrayTek that shows the process of creating a VPN connection between 2 routers using the CVM function. And then finally we'll look at some additional features in the CVM tool. So now we'll just start by looking at the topic, what is Central VPN Management? It sometimes is written as CVM. Let's go to the next slide here. So we just started looking at the topology that we're using today, and here we have a Viga 2860 shown on the left-hand side of the diagram. That'll provide the central VPN service to set up VPN tunnels to various routers, shown on the right-hand side. And now we'll just describe Central VPN Management and what it can do for you. There are a number of functions within CVM, and these are, you can establish VPN connections between the central router, which is the Viga 2860 in our case, and the branch router by just one click. And building and managing VPN connections between multiple sites can be time-consuming and frustrating if the VPNs do not come up. And usually for IPsec VPN tunnels, there are many parameters to synchronize as well as security associations to build. These include pre-shared key, subnet, encryption mode, and so on. It just takes one wrong parameter to be entered for the VPN to fail to come up, and sometimes you need to trace through the settings or capture the VPN syslogs to discover where you went wrong. But using CVM, it just takes a few clicks and the routers will self-configure the VPN tunnel, and it takes a lot of the frustration out of the configuration process. So another handy CVM feature is the ability to display all your CPE devices on a Google map. And this will give you an indication of the physical locations of the CPE devices. And I just got the diagram here. Just you can see in this picture, the CPE devices are shown by the red icons on the Google map. And if you place the mouse pointer over the icon, it'll display the details of the remote router. So we just got the details of the left-hand one just shown there. And another useful function is the ability to set up schedules to back up or restore router configurations, as well as schedule firmware upgrades in the routers. So here I've got a screenshot here of the 2860. This is in the CPE management configuration menu. As you can see here, you can see there's three options, which are config backup, config restore, and firmware upgrade. So now we just look at our next topic on the agenda, and that is, how does central VPN management work? So I'll just give you just a brief rundown. Central VPN management communicates with the CPE devices, that is the branch office routers, using TR069. And TR069 defines an application layer protocol for remote management of end-user devices. It uses SOAP/HTTP-based protocol, providing the communication between the customer premise equipment, which is the CPE device, and the auto configuration service. And TR069 was developed for automatic configuration of routers, gateways, set-top boxes, VoIP boxes by using the auto configuration server. And here it's the CVM or Central VPN Management initiates the CPE, it's the remote routers, to dial into the VPN tunnel rather. So the CVM router, which in our case is the 2860, is configured for dial-in, and the remote routers are configured for dial-out VPN. And also the central VPN management will manage multiple CPE devices simultaneously. And as you can see here, the remote routers are connected to the central router, and the green color for the remote routers indicates they are online, which is the one on the left that says Tony. It's got a green tick on there. And the other one, it's got a red cross called Thomas. That one there indicates that the router is offline, or that there's a problem with communication with the router. The VPN connection details are shown below, and if you look towards the bottom of the screen, you can see the details in green. It shows the IP address and the VPN details, and that's for the IPsec VPN tunnel. And the number of managed CPE devices depends on the model of the router that's being used. So as you can see here, the VIGA 2860 and the VIGA 2925 routers each support 8 CPE devices. The next models up will be the VIGA 2960 that supports 12 devices, and the VIGA 3900 will support up to 16 CPE devices. So now we'll just look at our next topic on the agenda, and this is configuring central VPN management. So I'll discuss just briefly the steps required to configure central VPN management and establish a VPN connection between the central VPN management router and the remote CPE router. So the three main steps required are to, first of all, configure the CVM router, and then configure the CPE router, and then finally establish a VPN connection between those devices. So the first step in configuring the CVM router is to allow connections from the CPE devices and to configure the required ports as well as usernames and passwords. So to do this, we have to go to the CVM General Setup Configuration menu, as you can see on this screenshot, and then enable either CVM port or CVM SSL port. I think the SSL port is a bit more secure, so it's probably recommended to use that. And then assign a port number. So in this picture, you can see that I've selected CVM port 8000, which is the HTTP port. And the only other step required is to enter a username and password. And that's what the other devices were used to authenticate. And you'll notice on this page that there are two URLs that you can copy and paste into the remote device ACS URL field. So the top one is shown in green there, is the HTTP, URL string, the element is HTTPS. So depending on the method you're using, just copy and paste the required one into the remote router. So the next step is to configure the remote CPE server, or CPE router rather. And as you can see here on the remote router, you'll need to go to system maintenance. I don't think I've shown it here. I'll go to the next slide here. You have to go system maintenance, TR069 setting. That's here. And then in the remote router, enter the required details. It's probably a bit hard to see, but you just fill in the options in there. So the required settings are to enter the URL string from the CVM server that we saw in the previous slide, and then enter the username and password configured on the CVM server as well, and then enable the CPE client, which is about halfway down the page. And then the fourth item is to enable periodic inform settings. And here we set the piling interval for this router, and here we set it for 300 seconds. But you can change it to whatever value you like. Then after we enter the required details, in both routers we will see the CPE devices appear in the unmanaged device list in the CVM router. The next step is to add these devices to the managed device list, and the CPE router will automatically synchronize with the CVM router. And here you can also enter the description for the CPE device. So I'm not sure I think I haven't got that slide, but this one here just shows you a router called Tony, which has got the green tick below it. And that's it's been added to the managed devices. And we also have another router just down below towards the bottom. We've got a managed device list. And there you've got an IP address for a 2850V router. And that hasn't been added yet, so we just need to select that and add that to the top. So once you do that, you'll see both devices will appear in the managed device list. Now we've got a router called Tony and the other one called Thomas, both in the managed devices list. And then to establish the VPN connection, I think I've got different icons here, different pictures, but you just got to just select the device and then select the VPN tunnel type. I've got PPTP selected, and then that'll automatically create the VPN profile. So once it comes up, you'll be able to see on the managed device, actually the CVM server, you've got to go to VPN remote access LAN to LAN menu. You'll see there's new profiles created on the left-hand side. And on the remote CPE device, under index 1 was the other profile, 2860_CVM. That's also created automatically. So what I'll do, I'll just show you quickly a short video, which probably gives you a better description and gives you a live demo of how to create the VPN tunnel.
In this video, we will learn about DrayTek's central VPN management system. So what does the CVM do? It allows you to establish a VPN with a single click, display the CPEs on Google Maps, and you can also schedule the CPE to backup, restore configuration, as well as upgrade firmware. From the VPN management profile, you can show the CPE information just by holding your mouse over the router. You can also click the CPE to dial VPN through IPsec and PPTP. Here you can see the CPE VPN connection has been added to the list. The Google Maps function allows you to hover over the location to learn more information. The CPE management maintenance profile allows you to configure backup, restore, and firmware upgrade remotely. How does the CVM work? the CVM communicates with the CPE via the TR069 protocol. The CVM initiates CPE to dial the VPN tunnel, and it allows you to manage multiple CPEs simultaneously. For example, the Viger 2860 is allowed to handle up to 8 CPEs. We will now configure the Vigor 2925 as a CVM router. Click the Central VPN dropdown and click General Setup. We will enable the CVM SSL port for added security. Here you can choose your username and password. You'll select your LAN subnet. We selected LAN 1. Now go to System Maintenance and click Management. Make sure that Allow Management from the Internet is ticked and ensure that the HTTPS server option is also ticked. Ensure that the CVM SSL port is enabled. We can now configure the 2912 as a CVE router. Click on System Maintenance and TR069. We will need to get the URL for the ACS server from the CVM. To get this information, click on Central VPN Management and General Setup. Here you will need to copy the HTTPS URL, since we chose the CVM SSL port. Here you can paste that information and copy the username and password that you selected. You'll now need to enable the CPE client as well as periodic inform setting. Here we chose 90 seconds so we get a faster response time, but please note that this will send more packets. Under System Maintenance, please click Management. Ensure that the TR069 server is enabled. We'll now go back to the settings to see if we can test and get an ACS response. Please note, this could take some time due to your internet connection. The green light means the CPE is now connected to the CVM router. Return to the CVM and click the CPE Management. Here we can see the CPE in the Unmanaged Device list. Click the checkmark box and give the device a name. You can also add the device location, which will be used later in Google Maps. Here we can see the Google Map integration. The router has been tagged in Dallas and appears directly in Dallas. For larger networks, you can see routers that are across the world. We can now move on to VPN management. If you hover your mouse over the device, you can see a detailed information list about the router. By clicking on the device, you can tunnel in and establish different types of VPN tunnels. In our case, we just established an IPsec tunnel. It could take up to a few minutes to establish the VPN tunnel. Now that we've established the connection, the tunnel will appear in the VPN connection list. Now click VPN and Remote Access and LAN to LAN. Here we can see the VPN profile has been created automatically with the name of the last 6 digits of the CPE router MAC address.
And we'll look at the last agenda item, which is to look at the additional features of Central VPN Management. So as mentioned earlier, one feature is to display the CPE devices on the Google Maps. And another feature was the ability to schedule backups and restoration of CPE configuration. The firmware can also be scheduled to be upgraded through this method. And here you can see the menu options to back up the router configuration, restore the configuration, and upgrade the firmware for the remote router. And all these functions can be performed according to a time schedule. So here we show the steps required to restore a configuration to the CPE device that's a remote router according to a schedule. So we first create a profile and enable it. It's probably a bit hard to see in the picture, but okay. Then we choose the required device and select the required action, which is config restore. And then we select the backed up config file and enter the schedule details. And to configure the required schedules to use the for the CPE backup restore, you go to Application Schedule menu in the CVM router and enter the start date and time, and select the days of the week to apply the schedule. And the steps required to upgrade the firmware to the CPE device, it's according to a schedule, is similar to what we do for the restore configuration. We first create a profile and enable it. Then we choose the required device and select the action, which is firmware upgrade. And then now we select the firmware file and enter the schedule details. And to configure the required schedules, we for the firmware upgrade is similar to what we described earlier for the other function, as you can see here. So it's very similar setup method. And you go to Applications Schedule menu in the CVM router, then enter the start date and time, and select the days of the week to apply to the schedule.